Good afternoon, everybody. Just let us know if you can see and hear us okay. A few people I can see have already jumped on nice and early on the stream. Someone jumped on at 20 to 1. So, Jay, good afternoon, guys. Looking forward to this one. He's nice and early on the stream. I'm joined by Jonny today. How are you doing, Jonny?
Yeah, good. Very busy, very busy. I think everyone's busy right now. Just
Yeah,
trying to get
definitely.
everything sorted. A lot of new things going out. It's March, April. A lot of new sort of laws and different things coming into place, which we're going to talk about. So just looking over those, looking over the numbers and all those sort of things. I think February and March are always the worst sort of times to be an Amazon seller or reseller
Yeah,
because all the fees jump up. You get the national living wage going up and all these sort of things. So a lot going on. Of course, we've got the hive, which is thriving. A lot of activity going on there as well. So
mm,
there's a lot of stuff going on, and of course the software, which is very close to being finished. So, well, the alpha is very close to be finished. The final product won't be. It's a ongoing years project, but
yeah.
final first alpha will be out soon. So busy, busy. How you doing?
Nice. I'm good. Yeah, same as you. Busy. A lot going on in my world at this time of year because we do a lot of the liquidation side. And obviously, everybody wants to get rid of stuff before year end. So, yeah, we're very busy this time of year from a buying stock perspective and things. And now business is doing well, but like I say, as we'll discuss today, costs have shot up across the board. I think ever since January, it seems to have been everything's going up, and I think it's challenging. I think it would be an honest way to describe it. I don't want to say everything's all amazing, and it isn't. There is strong demand, which is good, but there is challenges. I think not just for my business for ecom, but for the country as a whole.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's yeah, for small businesses, it does seem very difficult. What's coming up with all the increased costs and well, even the big companies are suffering, right? All the sort of banks bursting and all the crypto things and everything going up in the air. Some not even Ponzi scams. Some of just the banks, obviously, like Silicon Valley Bank, and I know that's America, but a lot of pretty bad news coming out where it's obviously
Yeah,
affecting a lot of people's obviously income and a lot of yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
yeah. We'll just talk about that actually, Silicon Valley Bank, because I think it's one of them things that's been kind of underestimated how significant it actually is. So, for anyone who doesn't know, Silicon Valley Bank was a bank in America. Primarily, it serviced startups in America in Silicon Valley, hence the name. So, it's very much a kind of business focused bank. Now, in America, as we have in the UK, we have financial services authority have a basically like an insurance. So if a bank fails, then they'll cover your deposits. So the Americans have this as well. I think it's up to $250,000. But what's happened, particularly with this Silicon Valley Bank, is that a lot of people, because a lot of the customers were big corporate clients, had millions and millions of dollars in the banks. And what's actually happened is obviously these were not covered under the scheme. And there's been a bit of a run on small banks, and all these firms and high net worth individuals, particularly, have started taking their money out of. Another one was a local New York bank, also nearly went bust the other day because they're thinking, oh no, this is a concern. So they've been taking the money out and then putting it into the bigger banks, where it's perceived to be the more stable and more secure. So what actually happened is the Federal Reserve has actually announced, and the US government's announced, that they are going to be insuring all of the money that's been lost, in essence, to stop a run on the banks. It's these little things, because economics is very psychology driven. If people get scared, they start taking the money out. Same thing that happened with Northern Rock in the UK. People start pulling the money out, and then people start, trying to invest in other things, and that can cause an entire financial collapse, essentially. So it's actually a really major thing that happened, this bank failure. So really interesting times, I think.
Did you watch CoffeeZilla's video on it today? I know there's
I
this really
haven't
good
seen that
YouTube.
yet. I do
There's a
like
really
him. I
good
haven't seen this yet, though.
there's a really good YouTuber called CoffeeZilla, and he exposes like um, hopefully won't expose to Hive because there's nothing to expose. But he exposes a lot of like the NFT scams of training companies like Grant Cardone and all that sort of thing. But he recently exposed like Logan Paul and stuff like last month on his Crypto Zoo project. It's all quite fascinating because he's actually incredibly good. But he was talking about the same thing. Well, the way you broke that down was actually
Mm.
very good. Um, so that what I know there's a cap of $250,000 per bank. Did you say that they're insuring more than that?
I believe
Is that
so.
what?
Yeah, I've not quite need to read into the exact details, but I believe they've basically said that they've come out and said that they're going to insure all the deposits, because it's just a run on the bank essentially. All these smaller banks. Someone's come out saying that there's three have already collapsed now. So yeah, it's to stop a run on the banks essentially. Yes, it will be costly, but a run on banks and causing 10 other small banks to go out of business is going to be far more damaging than insuring the funds for just Silicon Valley Bank essentially.
Yeah. It's funny because there's a one of the most famous basketball players, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I can't pronounce it, but he's like the best NBA player right now. But his financial advisor told him to put 250,000 into like 50 different banks. So he has
Mm.
$250,000 spread out in like 50 different banks, obviously managed by a wealth manager, just in case this happens. So he's insured and all the lot. Obviously this isn't a multimillionaire sort of huddle, war room esque podcast, but I don't, if you do have significant cash in a bank, then I think it's obviously good to diversify that and park
Mm.
it other places, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Let's say a few hellos to people who've jumped on. So Jamie's joined us, Yvonne's joined us, Chris has joined us, Cindy, Natalie said hello. She said fancy as well. Yeah, I hope you like our new backdrop. We've had that design this week, so I think that looks really smart. Um, Somebody, I'm sorry, I can't see the name because it's not signed up to StreamYard, says interesting session today. Something I'm thinking about. I think that's referring to the warehouse and things. But I think what we're going to be discussing is going to be kind of a bit of general economics. I think it's important to understand why things are the way they are. I think in business, having a general awareness of the economy is really, really important, and it'll help you make smart financial decisions, long term and investment decisions. And then obviously, we'll talk about the warehousing situation and things and how costs are going up as well. So for us, so yeah, a few other people jumped on. Cindy says that's why I spread my millions across several banks. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a wise strategy, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there is a bit of a misconception, isn't there? Sometimes that people think money is secure in a bank. But I think it's funny, isn't it? When you don't have money, you have challenges, and then when you have lots of money, you have different challenges.
Yeah.
so the challenge of not having any money is to get money, and then when you have money, the challenge is then how do you keep that money safe? I guess.
That's true. I guess you look at something like Credit Suisse. If you look at their stock price, I think it's gone down by like 6, 7x or something. Credit Suisse. I don't know if they're in a crisis where they might actually go under. But potentially, I don't know if someone who knows more about Credit Suisse, but if you just look at their stock price, it's gone down, 6, 7x. It's crashed really, really, really hard. So there's a lot of situations like that, and it's just a trillion. The revenue they do is over a trillion, right? So some
Mm.
massive, massive players, and it's not nice to think about. But again, not financial advisors, but it's good to try and spread it out, right, and have it in different assets, different. Um, yeah, as Ray Delario says, you can't really predict the future, but you can obviously diversify and put it into money into lots of different places to secure yourself, especially during like recessions and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. John's joined us as well. Cindy says, sorry, I meant several mattresses. So she's got cashed up stuffed in all her mattresses. I wouldn't advise that. If your house burns down, you lose all your money.
Yeah. Same. But now all I need is a million. Yeah, several mattresses. Yeah. Did you ever store any of your sort of household stuff at your warehouse, Matt? I think I've got
No, no,
I think I've
I
got a
haven't.
lawnmower at my warehouse. So some stuff like that. It's
Oh,
I
actually,
think
no. I think I've got a kayak on the roof. Actually, at one of my warehouses. Yeah, I bought a kayak. When you just buy like random things. Maybe this is just me. I bought a kayak a few years ago with the intention of going out on the weekends. It's up, and I thought, oh, I'll just keep it at the warehouse. So it's in between like the roof struts on the roof. Yeah, it's not moved since about 2015. So yeah, it's still
wow.
there.
Yeah, I think like if I think it's hard unless you build that habit of doing that every weekend, and because it doesn't seem that massively convenient to go to the warehouse, pick it up, and then go kayaking, then bring it
Oh,
back to the
our
warehouse, and
warehouse
bring it
is
back.
actually on our warehouse is actually on the river. So I can, I can literally. We nearly had a flood a few years ago, which is a bit concerning. I can actually open the back door and then just push it out onto the water, down the stairs and
Wow.
onto the water. Yeah,
Is it quite a nice river? Is it
it's
like I know?
okay.
Yeah.
It's not. It's quite industrial. It's in the middle of the town. But yeah, so basically we have the front is like ground level, but the back is, I think it's about 12 foot drop between the stairs, the above ground, what's the ground floor of a warehouse, and then all the way down to the bottom. So it's you'd have to, you'd have to climb down. It's like a metal set of stairs at the back, and you have to walk down all the way to the bottom, and then you can kind of get onto the river that way, because there's like there used to be, what there is at the back. Our warehouse is built in an abandoned boatyard, so it used to be an old boatyard which has been converted into warehousing, so you can get almost direct access to the river that way. So yeah, best intentions. It was quite logical at the time, but it's never been used.
It didn't get used. Yeah.
I'm just preparing for the apocalypse. I'm all sorted if we have a big flood.
Yeah. I guess are you spending less time at the warehouse now? Are you
Yeah,
spending more
absolutely.
time?
Hardly any time at the warehouse. Yeah, I think I might join your lifestyle a little bit more and do a bit more traveling. I've just come back from Milan. Oh, it's fantastic. Mediterranean weather is very appealing right now, I must say.
Yeah. So I hear is it still snowing over there in the UK? I've heard it's
It's been
con-
snowing this morning in Manchester. Yeah, it was, well,
oh
hailstorm. It was awful, awful weather. I want to go back.
yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of benefits to the travel sort of thing, but it does get harder as you get older and have more responsibilities. So, for me and my partner, it's just easy. Again, like I've said about this, because we don't have any responsibilities, as in we don't have a mortgage back in the UK. It's just investment properties, and we don't have a dog to carry around, and obviously she works remotely as well, so everything's sort of lined up to work in that way. So obviously, if you're single you're just doing this at Amazon job and you're using a third party center, then I'd absolutely recommend
Mm.
it. Just get a better cost of living, and you can really optimize your living costs and your enjoyment and stuff like that. And yeah, it's cool. I mean, like next month, I haven't said this, but in 1 or 2 months, we're thinking about going to like Aruba and those sort of islands as well.
Yeah,
Like
hard
like
life. Yeah.
Dutch, yeah, Dutch islands. But you can get good internet and go snorkeling there and all those sort of things. So that should be pretty cool. But
That'd be very cool.
yeah, it's cool. But like if you look at sort of rent and stuff, you can get a nice house for like about 2K, which if you're living in London, you're going to be paying more than that for a flat. So you can live in a really nice house on an island with good internet, and you can just sort of emulate your home life in on an island or wherever you want to be in the world, and uh, as long as you can sort of work to your time zone and keep up with that sort of thing, that could be the only issue.
Yeah,
It's
time
pretty.
zones, I think, is a challenge. I think you kind of need somewhere, because you're in South Africa, which makes it quite easy because it's 2 hours, isn't it? 2 hours ahead.
Well, 2 hours ahead's perfect for me because it
Yeah.
means if I get up at like 8 in the morning, everyone thinks I'm an early riser because it's 6 o'clock in the
Yeah,
UK.
because you messaged me this. You messaged the chat this morning. Me and Natalie and Johnny have got a chat, obviously, and you messaged at 6 o'clock, and I'm looking and I'm thinking, what is he doing up at 6 o'clock? And then obviously I realized you were 2 hours ahead.
Just an early riser. So that works really well, actually. Get a head start on the day, and the same with Asia actually, because Asia is ahead as well. So I
Hmm.
found Asia very easy because with I've got a team of VAs and people who work for me. So I get to communicate with them, and then at the end of the day, my UK team comes online. So you sort of fit your whole day is fit of people
Yeah.
who work for you. I guess the only problem with
Yeah.
that is there's always someone who works for you who's always working. So there's no downtime essentially.
No,
Um, but yeah, that
that's
I
good.
guess talking about the UK team and the teams, I guess it brings us on to what we're going to talk about, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Today.
I think leads nicely into so the main type of conversation is going to be discussing warehousing, and I think it's a really interesting topic of conversation actually, because I think a lot of people in the business, they get to a point, and I'm sure most of our listeners let them know in the comments if you're at this stage. You kind of like, you started this business, you're probably running it either part time, maybe full time from home, right? And you kind of like, right, what's the next step? I've done FBA. FBA is working well for me. I want to ramp it up. I either want to make it my full time income or just want to, make it bigger. So where do I go? What do I do? Do I get a warehouse? Do I not? Do I keep it outsourced? It's a really interesting topic of conversation, isn't it? And I think it's really hard to give an answer, because if you asked me 6 months ago, my answer would have been different to what we're probably going to discuss today.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's very difficult. It depends on your location. It's very, it's location dependent, isn't it? So everyone's different. If you are someone who lives in the center of London, and they want to get a warehouse, you're gonna have to say to them, well, look, unless you want to have the highest rates in the world and be not competitive in your warehouse, then you're gonna have to move location and move home and rehome everything and move your whole life around, right? So this advice to give, should you go for a warehouse, is very different if someone lives like yourself up north versus someone like myself who's just north of London, where you have to relocate essentially for the first year to get that warehouse. So it's very subjective. It's also, I guess, what your goals are, right? It's like, what are your goals with the warehouse? Is it just to pump out FBA? 'Cause if it's just to pump out FBA, then why would you get a warehouse? I guess the one advantage I think with FBA is the turnaround rate. That's a little bit better than prep centers. Um, but yeah, you got to think like, what's your why? Are you looking to build a brand, like a Shopify brand? Are you looking to prep for other people and sort of have a hybrid business where you're a service as a warehouse as well as doing your own prep? Um, so there's a lot of different whys, and um, I think what's interesting is obviously next month a lot of the costs go up
Yeah,
of running a warehouse, and I think that's what we want to talk about today is maybe just sort of breaking down the numbers and just sort of actually figuring out like how much does it actually cost to run a warehouse per FBA unit.
yeah,
Because as far as I know, there's no major announcements or of a prep center increasing their price. And um, if you're in the comments, just I just want to know a few things in the comments. How much are you currently paying per unit, and what is your sort of turnaround rate for FBA? So say you sending goods to a prep center. How long does it take for that to turn around and get prepped and sent off? Because those are like the two real factors of FBA. That's the deciding factors and what you can really optimize, I guess, with a warehouse, or at least try to optimize. Um, because again, my initial reason for again the warehouse was because that turnaround rate was so slow at the prep center. I thought,
yeah.
this is ridiculous. Like, I think it was just a bad luck case of the prep center just being having teething issues at the time, and I think I've mentioned this before, but I'd be interested to know what's everyone paying for
Yeah,
their
that'd be really
warehouse.
interesting to know. Yeah. And Chris has just to put a comment. He said he's been waiting since last May for his local council to sort the unit out. Now, yeah, council's an interesting one. I think we'll probably talk about this in a minute, but in terms of rent and things, who to rent from and how to rent, I think the council can either be excellent or they can be awful, depending on. I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to it either. I think some councils are exceptionally business focused and really efficient, better than, and they'll probably sort things out much more. I think it's true about all councils. They're probably very enforceful of the rules. So if there's certain things you can't do, then you have to abide by them or pay certain charges or whatever. Whereas private landlords might be a bit more flexible. But if you probably never have a bad council in terms of if something's fixed and something's legally wrong, they will probably sort it out. Whereas private landlords might not be so keen to if it's going to cost them money. So it swings and roundabouts. But obviously there is a lot more bureaucracy in the council and things can take a lot longer, as Chris has experienced there. Cindy said as well. I know she has a unit in London, but she's just giving it up. She's getting rid of the London office and moving to a prep center that's further north. So yeah, that makes a lot more sense. I think particularly where you are geographically, with a business that is so ungeographically restricted. You can sell anywhere in the world through Amazon. Where you base your business is actually a really, really important consideration, but potentially, and it could make the difference between success and failure.
Exactly, exactly. Um, it's an interesting question, and I think also, we've talked about this before. It's your personal circumstances, and like, have you got that year to really commit to a warehouse? And it's if you're going to save money, are you really ready? If you how much you're going to save to sort of sacrifice everything that comes with the warehouse? And I think like do we start? Do you want to start at the costs and like I
Yeah,
mean,
I think.
start.
Yeah, well, I think I'd be happy to tell about my costs. I think it'd be really interesting for people to know because I think one of the things people don't actually, you kind of see different things and different bits of information. You don't really know what the real costs are. And there's a lot of things that you don't consider as well with a warehouse. So do you want to run through your costs first, and then I can go through mine?
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to do like a general sort of thing. So, what to sort of mention first, I just want to look at like if you hire an adult in the UK now. 2 years ago, the minimum wage was I think £8.90 around that.
Yeah,
It's now gone up to about £10.50. So that's like a 25% sort of increase in just 2 years. That's pretty insane, like a pretty big hit to businesses. 12.5% increase every
it's
year. It's
massive.
it's
Yeah,
it's absolutely insane. And the thing is, like, you don't want to be that business that just sort of matches the min. So I always try and sort of go a little bit above, about 6, 7%. So, uh, my current base rate right now is £10, but in a few weeks we're gonna have to move our base rate to £11 for adults, which is good. It's pretty decent. I know everything's gone up, but considering like the base rate maybe 2 years ago was probably about 950 for most adults. It's a massive jump. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, if you're looking at something like you're paying an adult, and this is just one packer, and you look at the £11 base round, it's not just £11 because you got to pay national insurance, which is again about 13.8%.
13%. Yeah, on top
So
of.
that is £1.50. So the hourly rate right now is 12.50 for national insurance, and then you have a 3% pension, which is about 30-40p. So call that 30-40p. Then you have holidays you got to pay for as well. So that's sort of 8% of a year, 10% of a year in holidays. So that's another 70-80p. So what you're looking at actually, if you're going to hire an adult in the UK, you're looking at around 14 quid, right? 13.70 to 14 quid per hour for a staff member. So that's just, if you just want to break down a little bit further, if you're hiring them for an 8-hour day, it's going to cost you in gross about £110 per adult staff members. And you could say, well, you know what, you could avoid the pension, you could avoid a lot of that, pay as you break by hiring children or younger people. But there's always a caveat to that: is there are children, they're not going to be reliable. They're not going to turn up to work as much, from my experience. They're more
Yeah,
likely to leave and turn around. Um, you know, they're not going to. Usually, the output is just not as much. It's just a generational thing. But if you're looking at sort of an adult right now, it's £110 for a total cost for a day. So say they can get. Let's put the average of FBA units. I know they can probably do more, but say 300 units a day. I could probably do 400, but like, people mess around, people have down days. So I'd say the average, I'm going to say 300 units. Just right there for one staff member, you're looking at a prep cost of 36p just for that one
yeah,
staff member. But this is the issue because you might be thinking like, oh, that 36p is cheaper than the 55p I'm paying for my prep center. But there's a lot more to it than just that, right? So like on top of that, you could then look at your 13-14 pounds, and then you've got a manager. So we're in a business where we want to be almost investors in the business. We want to be the CEO of the business. We want to be the top of the business. We don't want to be micromanaging and managing a business. Like, we didn't
no,
create our own business to create a job to be a manager. So you're going to need someone to manage that. So say you have, I'm going to say just 20% of that is going to go towards a manager. Like, it's a very rough guide, but so you have a total payroll of 5, 6 staff. I would say about, for your whole payroll, about 20-25% probably be the manager, because it'd be significantly more, maybe 20%. These are just rough numbers, but that then brings up your prep costs, your FBA prep costs, to about 43, 44p. And guess what? You get bigger, right? And then you start to add a stock controller. And what's that? That's going
yeah,
to be another sort of 5-10%. So that's now 52p per prep unit for FBA. And it doesn't stop there. Like, the other thing you have to also calculate is, my warehouse, Say I have 3,000 square foot. I pay about 1,500 per month. And if I can say I can get 20,000 units out a month, I'm paying about 8p, 10p, 8, 10p in just warehouse costs for those FBA. And it doesn't stop there because then you've got electricity, business
which is a
rates,
lot.
which has gone up massively, right? So
Massively, yeah.
electricity, business rates, has another 10p. So, when you're using a prep center and you're paying 55p, you're for the warehouse itself, you're probably looking right now about 70p. You know, there's the only way, like, I'd say 60 to 70p for a FBA prep per unit. Just because this electricity cost has added another grand to that warehouse's bill, right? And that grand is going to add 4 or 5p to that preps cost. You know, business rates as well. Like we're going to talk about this, they've gone up as well. So the base rate of business rates have also jumped up, and I think I can get transitional relief, hopefully. But I received a bill. We get onto this, but like of an increase of £5,000 to £6,000 a year, which is just
Yeah.
ridiculous because I don't think they can actually do that. I've actually going to appeal that because it's a 500% increase because I've gone out the bracket of the small business rates relief, and I just don't think that's even fair. But you're looking at all those factors, and yeah, it's it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So, what's your thought on all that? I
Yeah,
mean,
no, very very similar situation. So we pay a bit more than you, but I think
yeah,
I demand a lot more of my staff in terms of expertise and skills. So we're paying about £12.20 is the lowest we're paying per hour. Obviously, you put all the other stuff on top of that, it's probably coming out about £16, £17 an hour with the PAYE and stuff. Being in the north, this is one of the major advantages of being in the north. Is our rent is only £900 a month for our 2,500 square foot unit. We don't pay any business rates, although again ours have have jumped. Um, it's under the rateable value, so we're not paying any business rates. One thing that has really impacted us is the electricity costs. So this time last year, I looked at our energy bill. We paid because we only have electric heaters in our warehouse. So January 2022, our electricity bill was £312. In January 2023, it was £1,269.38. It's just like £1,000 a month increase.
yeah,
February was a bit cheaper because it was a bit milder, and I was a bit more keen on making sure the heating was off. It was down to 600, but it's still doubled what it was a year ago. And then the January was when they were, it was colder and they were being more liberal with the electricity. So, and the thing is there's nothing I can do about that cost. I can't mitigate that cost. I can't turn the lights off because I can't work. I can't have the heating off because it's -1 outside and in January days. So it's very, very difficult to actually do anything about those costs other than just suck it up, I guess. And of course, you see people say, "Well, put your prices up," but obviously, in our business, we are mandated by the market, and we can't just necessarily pass on them costs. And the costs, as I think we'll probably discuss and we've seen, is that costs go up slower for consumers than they do for businesses. Businesses have the cost first, and they put the prices up, and then it reflects a few months later down the line. So the price rises, I think we saw the back end of last year, in December. A lot of prices went up a lot in December. Was basically the cost of the fuel from the February March time when the fuel shot up in price because of the Ukraine war. So again, I expect
cogs.
consumer prices will catch up, but this will be in sort of again later in the year catching up to the increased costs that we've had at the start of this year.
Yeah, precisely. So like last year it was the cogs going up, the actual cost of goods were all dramatically increasing, and especially food going up, 40, 50%.
Mm-hmm.
And our summer last year was terrible. We were just absorbing all these price increases, and we never saw the end result. We never saw it reflect obviously on Amazon because they were still holding the old prices. Because again, people are holding the old price, or the old stock, and they're selling it based off the old stock's price. So by it got to October, our margins were really, really good. So there was a massive sort of there's a lag, isn't there, in
Yeah.
price increases. And again, a lot of businesses next month are going to be hit again with a huge price increase of I'd say 15% probably. with the business rates and the wages going up. And if you sell on Amazon, obviously the FBA fees went well up as well this month. So you're being triple hit if you have your own warehouse, right? You're being
Hmm.
absolutely hammered by a lot of things where it's getting pretty crazy. But like the thing with this business is that you're going to have 3, 4 months of horrible months, not horrible months, but you might be making less money. Your margin's going to be very tight. Maybe a few months you'll break even. But again, what happens in these sort of businesses is typically towards the end of the year, it's just going to start spiking up again and sort of recover. And then it's going to have another price increase next year. And then it's going to just kind of go back. But I think this year, actually, like towards the end of this year, might be good because electricity might start going down. Prices will go up at the same time. Um, yeah, it's a
Yeah,
interesting
definitely.
situation.
I mean, yeah, okay, I don't want this to come across as really negative either, because it's not at all. I think it's important for us as sort of leaders in the space to be honest about the situation and say, not everything's sunshine and roses when it isn't. I think that's really, and I think also what's refreshing is that other people might be having the same struggles, and it's good to know that other people are still having the same struggles. It's not just them. It's not just their situation. So it's very honest and refreshing, I think. But one of the things I am very positive demand. I mean, demand for myself has been exceptionally strong on sales. The sales side. February last month we put down our biggest ever sales, and we actually beat December. In
Wow.
December was the problem with December. We had a lot of problems in December with Royal Mail because Royal Mail was a primary courier, and that impacted a lot of our Christmas sales. Sort of towards the end of December, it kind of just stopped. So we had a lower um, December than we would expect. But the team did really well last month, and demand was really strong. So yes, costs are going up, but demand is there, and that's the key thing. If the demand's there, Amazon's still doing selling, and people are still buying. That's the most important thing, because you can then manage a lot of these cost increases.
Yeah. I think it'd be okay if it's probably more advantageous for you because I don't think you have as much competition on your categories.
Mm,
You're on less competitive categories, and what you've probably seen, what I've seen in my category, and I'm sure others that are in competitive categories such as health, beauty, grocery, is with the FBA fees. Everyone has their margins on every pricer, stuck
yeah,
to the same thing. So, obviously everyone's price has gone up, and then so I guess some people have probably dropped their prices a little bit. Um, but a lot of the because the FBA fees have gone up. Obviously, if someone who has an automatic repricer who base their margins off like 10%, obviously that's gone up as well. So then it's gone above the actual price. So for myself, I'm probably not winning the buy box as much this month. So,
hmm,
what's the solution to that? Is either I reduce my margins or just wait it out. And it's interesting because it's grocery, right? So you got to think, well, things are going to expire. So maybe usually what the case and what happens is you take a hit in these few months and you just crash the price because you want to rotate that stock, uh, and then until everyone sells out and sort of replens again at the new price, that's when the prices start to sort of creep up um, again. But yeah, I think for you, like, I can see that, but for me, I think because of the price increases, I'm not sure if the demand has changed. I just think it's gone more competitive. Everyone's margins have dropped. I'm not willing to drop my price that much yet. I probably will if my stock gets old. I'm always going aggressive with my old stock, but my newer stock is probably above the mins. I would need to check that, but at a higher percentage. Um, yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah,
yeah,
I think just a lot of this comes down to like, and the real thing is like is we can go back to it is the warehouse versus prep center chat, and I think we should probably go back to that maybe after a few questions, but like
yeah. I'll
um
just jump back to some questions. Yeah, you're right. So a few people said. So someone said, I can't see your name. Sorry, but it says my prep center waits for a minimum of 30 units to arrive, and then 40 hours to send them in on the main shipping days, which is Tuesday to Friday. £240 a month for them, on all my shipping plans, plus some other benefits, 60p a unit, um, and £1 for items that sell above £50 at the point of listing. So interesting pricing structure on that. Jake's commented, he says, currently renting a storage unit. Now, I'm going to come on to this because this, I think, is a nice compromise. 250 square foot for £380, including VAT, works well for me. prep 5 hours a day, Monday to Friday, with family members, all deliveries accepted, puts into my unit. I left the pallet, but for UPS collection, so fairly hands off aside for prepping. Yeah, so I think a storage unit's a really nice compromise for people. The beauty of a storage unit, the storage is cheap, and also they'll accept deliveries, returns, and things like that. So it really helps you, if you're doing a lot of self prep yourself, and also if you've got a lot of seasonal goods, because obviously FBA storage is expensive, and FBA storage has increased by 10% in the past month, so that's going to really have an impact potentially on your business. So if you can get a decent storage unit where you can both store stock and prep out of, and then also keep your seasonal items, that's a really, really nice compromise, I think, as well as a prep center. If you're not ready to take the full plunge into a warehouse, or you think you might be struggling from the cost point of view, as Jake said, the question is time versus money, though. How much extra could be made with the extra 2 days? Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's a time v money thing. Self prepping is cheaper. It's always cheaper because most people don't undervalue their labor, but it's what are you missing out on by you prepping? If you outsource that, yes, it might cost you 60p, might cost 70p through having your own team of people doing it. One of the main advantages, obviously, of a own warehouse from a prep perspective is the turnaround time. Like Johnny, I reckon you probably got one of the fastest turnarounds in the business. Sometimes we have incredible turnarounds on certain lines. We'll have a pallet come in the morning, and we'll prep it and turn it around and back out with UPS by 12 o'clock on the same day. We can turn around stock in, if the delivery timing's right, in an hour or two. So that's an incredible benefit.
Yeah, so we do it different now because we're using Amazon Freight. We will just sort of do like a weekly shipment, actually, because we want to basically save on pallet costs and put it all in the same truck.
Yeah.
Hopefully FTL if they collect in time, and you save a lot on shipping costs that way. Sometimes we do 2 shipments a week, but usually we basically start on a Tuesday or Wednesday, Tuesday FBA, and then Thursday or Friday we'll get it out. And because we're using Amazon Freight, it'll get in that same day. So if a delivery is coming in, we'll basically go in straight away. But we have a different business, right? And I'll come back to this when we're doing the whole versus sort of thing. But we're primarily, merchant fulfilled is our main thing of our business, right? So FBA is more actually to get more storage. We're just leveraging our space, because if we didn't do FBA, then we need a much bigger warehouse. Yeah, back to you. With the questions.
Yeah. So Jake says his costs work out about 25p unit with all costs in. Right. So so that's really nice. Yeah, it's a nice little compromise there. Someone says it's the council that decide business rates and not the government, isn't it? Yes, the council.
The council decides the base rate.
Yeah,
the council decides the base rate, and then there's a multiple based off the council's base rate, and that multiple usually depends on. No, the base rate is your multiple, right? And then it's times by your sort of square foot. So our base rate increased from 45 to 60. So it's a 25% multiple increase, right? So that means that your business rates would go up 25%, right? It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money just to be hit suddenly. And for myself, because I was had business rates relief, my bill I got 2 days ago shows a $5,000 increase. So I'm appealing that, because I don't think they can do that. I think there's another article that says that it can only max out by 600 increase, because I don't think it's fair. You have like a transitional relief and stuff like that, which hopefully should come into play. But I see what the results of that email is. But yeah, it's the council that decides it.
And then it's a really weird system. So they apply basically they have a rate for the square footage, times it by the square footage, and then they apply a discount percentage. So my rate actually is £10,900 a year is my rates. But if your rates are under 15,000, then you get 100% discount. So I don't actually pay
staggered,
any rates.
Matt, so it's like from 15,000 to 12,000. It's staggered. So
it's staggered.
Yeah, if it's under 12,000, it's free.
It's free, yeah.
But from 12,000 to 15,000, it's staggered. So it's like 50% off, 60% off. The further towards the 12,000, but then 12,000 is free. So because you're on 10,500, you're still getting it free. But if you get to 12,000, then you might have like a 50% discount or whatever the stagger percentage is. But I'm not too sure on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
So here's a
expensive,
question
expensive.
for Amazon Freight. I can go back to a few after before then after. I've recently opened up Amazon Freight account. Are they far better than a normal courier? They're definitely more competitive. I'm paying £40 per pallet with Amazon Freight. If you get a FTL, full truckload, which it's pretty hard to get actually, because every time we book a full truckload, the lead time is like 21 days. But for less than a truckload, they'll pick up the same day or next day. But the good thing about Amazon Freight is that they will deliver it into Amazon in basically same day, right? So if you book a collection, it'll be there the same day or the next morning. So it's less than 24 hours turnaround. So it's really, really worth doing it because they're much cheaper. Obviously, they're Amazon, so it's obviously going to be Amazon friendly. Definitely recommended if you haven't signed up to Amazon Freight to sign up. It's the most competitive, and they're currently undercutting all the competitors, as they do to try and corner the market and get as much market share in that sort of world. And yeah, it's definitely worth it.
Nice.
A few questions, Paul. Yes, so quite a few
Yeah.
people like prepping their home garage. Prep zone is all ready when I am ready to let go of doing it myself. Yeah, I mean, look, if you're doing it yourself in the home garage and you don't mind doing it, and it's not, you know, you've got the time and it's not causing you hell and you hate doing it, then keep going because you're saving a lot of money, right? And if you can get 10,000 units out a month from your garage, say, I know it's a lot, but you're saving yourself £6,000, and if you can get, even if you get 1,000 units out, you're saving yourself 600, 500, 600, £100. So there's a salary in there itself. It's interesting how you can sort of park yourself into different roles of the business and obviously save money. Like I could potentially be a manager and pay myself the salary of the manager, but again,
Yeah.
depends what you want to do, what stage you're at. Do you want to turn it into like a proper business where you're you know, your investor essentially? That's
Yeah,
the goal,
I
isn't
think
it?
that's a really interesting point. I think it's really important to know as well that with the RM as a business, it's your journey, it's what you want to do. I mean, you'll probably see people like myself and Johnny, we put and other people put big figures out, but there's a lot behind them big figures. And I understand that not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody wants to run a multi-million-pound
Sure, Batman.
business. There's no disrespect in having. Oh, and he's gone, disappeared. And there's no disrespect in having a smaller business. There's nothing wrong with having a really nice six-figure business. Doing 250, 200,000 turnover can build yourself a really, really nice small business with a really nice income. It depends what you want, what stage of life you are, what your personal situation is. Amazon. The beauty of Amazon is everybody can do a similar thing in a completely different way. And what I have is not so people want. Obviously, we've discussed a lot of stress and a lot of cost comes with this. So there's nothing to say that you can't run a really nice six-figure business. I know there's a comment from somebody. Do you have a legal requirement to provide heating when you have staff? No, so there is not a legal requirement, but there is a guidance, and I think it's like 13 degrees is like the suggested minimum temperature for a unit. But then, of course, it comes down to like treating your staff well. If you can't even like heat the room and they're all freezing, they're not going to be putting out a good day's work. And if I've got 10 staff and I'm paying them £100 a day, then it's going to cost me more in potentially lost productivity because they're all sat there moaning how cold they are and not wanting to work there than actually just paying the energy bill. So it swings and roundabouts. Things you've got to consider. Productivity is probably one of the most important factors when you do run staff and run a warehouse. You're paying all this money. You want to be getting maximum value from your staff and maximum output. And if you have to spend 1,000 on heating to get that, then that's just what you have to do.
Precisely, precisely. Um, so we'll get onto the because we're running short of time, but we'll get onto the sort of prep center versus warehouse and look at that. Just going to look at the last question with £250,000 of sales. Is it worth it with that and other costs? Even prep from garage, is what worth it?
I think I was just saying, like what kind of turnover, yes, 250,000 can build you a really nice business. If it depends, obviously, if you're doing like the wholesale side of it, and you're buying 10-15% margin goods, and no, it's not worth it. 250K isn't. But if you're doing kind of like, say, retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, you've got 50-60% margins, you could be netting 80 or 100K if you're doing all your own prep work and you're sourcing high margin products. There's no reason that on a 250K turnover you couldn't make 100K profit if you're sourcing the right products. The problem is as the business grows, it becomes harder to get as many goods at the margin. You know, it's quite easy to go into a supermarket and pick up 5, 10 different things that'll make double, maybe even triple your money back. Having retail arbitrage, that's easy to do. To scale it up to do millions at that level is very difficult to do. To get the margins, which is why people naturally move into wholesale, because they can get much more units. Yes, they have to sacrifice the margin, but they make more overall by selling more units. So yes, it's entirely possible to build a really nice £100,000 net profit business off 250k turnover if you're sourcing the right stuff in the right way.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. And I did a session on Sunday in the Hive. But yeah, I did a whole thing on Easter eggs and how to find the Easter eggs and where to buy them, and what's it like online arbitrage versus retail arbitrage versus the wholesale, and the sort of pricing models between the both. But it's very interesting looking at that sort of calculation of volume versus margins with that. But if you're part of the Hive, then if you did watch that, then let me know your thoughts. But yeah, yeah. So getting on to the sort of actual question of like, warehouse versus prep center, and I think first of all, if you can get FBA costs for less than £1 all in, then it's pretty much, and your goal and sole intention is just to do FBA. Of course, you can probably save a lot of money if it's self-prep and doing it yourself in your garage.
Yeah.
But if you're doing strictly like full commercial warehouse versus prep center, and your business is, I want to scale out FBA, then it's not worth it. I don't think. I'm just going to say it's not worth it just for FBA, because again, it's going to cost you more money, more headaches, more time. I don't think, a prep center is currently doing 55 to 50p per unit, that you can really beat that. I think you'll struggle to beat that without managing it yourself or by hiring very young people. I just don't think you can actually beat that at today's base rate of a person. So I would say from that front, if you're an FBA business, there's absolutely no reason you should get a warehouse. It's third party prep centers, and you know, uh, we work. Well, not work. We work closely with like Paul Cousins, don't we? And he's the guy who sort of who uses it. But yeah, what did you say about that? I think, is that a sort of 100% or not? Or is that, do you think there's any sort of
I think there's a bit of an argument against that. And Chris he said about looking at storage units. So a compromise, I would say, is a storage unit. Chris has said, though, the storage unit came in more expensive. So I think that the difficulty is the storage side of it. Now, having a unit for storage is really handy, because you can take advantage of special offers from retailers, buy in big volumes of stock and store them at a low cost. What you'll find with the store unit, anything kind of up to 500 square feet will probably come in cheaper with the store unit. Anything bigger than that, you're probably better just getting a fully fledged warehouse, because the cost per square foot is a lot lower. But kind of most warehouses, I think, generally speaking, are 1,000 square foot. It's probably one of the smallest you're going to see. Unless it's like a shared unit. I think generally speaking, you're going to be looking about 1,000 square foot for a small unit, which will have a lower cost per square foot than there's like a store unit or a container or something. So yeah, there's definitely an argument for storage as an FBA business. But like you say, again, are you just adding cost on? Is all the cost that you've saved by buying in bulk going to be negated by the cost you're paying in storage, and actually you better just paying a higher price and moving less units through? That's a genuine question, and that depends on your business model, depending on what you're sourcing.
Yeah. So yeah, you'd absolutely save on storage. I know actually prep centers, then again, they might they might have a free storage for 30 days as well, right? So the actual FBA storage costs, I think I'm paying less now than I used to do with a prep center, because I'm not sending everything in to the prep center. I'm actually, my forecasting, the numbers I actually send to FBA are actually much more accurate, because I'm sending exactly how much you need rather than just sending everything in to get rid of the at the warehouse. I guess as well, the FBA thing is also scale. There's probably only so much you can grow in a warehouse, in a prep center, sorry, because I imagine that prep center might have limited space where they might say, look, like if you're going to send more units in, you're going to have to send it. You can't, we've maxed out your sort of slot, because there comes to a point where a warehouse a prep center might not be able to cater to all your volume, and that's kind of what happened to me last year. So that's always one thing. I guess you can always get 2, 3, 4 prep centers, but then you have multiple dresses and multiple different things going on. So yeah, you would find a massive prep center you can actually cater your volume there. But of course, having your own warehouse is very good for scale. Um, so the
Yeah.
second thing I'd say is like, well, what is the other benefit? And I think the big one is, of course, merchant fulfilled, and you know, that I'm going to include seller fulfilled prime in that. For me, having a warehouse is more profitable than having a prep center, and the reason why is because I'm paying a lot cheaper in FBM rates and all that sort of thing. You know, I can do merchant fulfilled properly and cater to the volume. The other thing I say that it's cheaper, it's more lucrative for us is our seller fulfilled prime merchant fulfilled margins are about 23, 24%. Our FBA about 17%. So, you know, that's the sort of 8%, 6 to 8% difference in margin. You know, we're doing 2 million a year. So you can obviously add up how much that is in savings. Because not in savings, but in opportunity costs for us being able to do seller fulfill prime at our scale, and how much more money we're making from having that opportunity. Obviously, being in the UK, merchant fulfilled is very, very good because your couriers can reach pretty much 99% of all areas, right? If you're in the States, you can't reach the whole of America, where FBA can reach majority of America. Actually, another thing, actually, by the way, on the sort of warehouse versus prep center on the FBA thing is also materials and packaging materials. One of the downsides of the prep center is that they will put a ridiculous markup on boxes and poly bags and all that sort of thing. So in a prep center, you'll typically be paying £2.50 to £3 per box. But if you're buying a box in a warehouse secondhand or whatever, we don't usually buy the same sort of box size for about 70-80p. So there's probably like a 3x on boxes. So that's a saving you have on warehouses versus
Yeah.
prep centers. Just to add to that argument of like, should you have the warehouse or FBA? But bringing it back to the merchant FPM, of course you do FBM as well. I'd have to say that's probably, especially in the UK, is the biggest advantage that we have over people who use prep centers, and people not having that golden opportunity of self-fulfilled prime, which is, for me, self-fulfilled prime is just so good. So is merchant fulfilled so good. Yeah.
One of the massive benefits of merchant fulfilled that I feel people totally overlook is the cash flow element of it, because
Yep.
this is I think is potentially something that a lot of people don't consider, and actually is a cost that saving that you make by having your own warehouse. So you send stuff to a prep center. Now a quick prep center, let's say they're doing it 2 or 3 days, which is probably pretty average. That stock then goes to FBA. That probably takes 2 days again. Amazon will then receive it. They probably might move it around the country, probably looking at another 5 days. Then eventually it's available for sale. We're now looking at like over a week here, maybe like nearly 2 weeks. Available for sale. Okay. Then you sell it. Then you get paid for it when Amazon dispatch it. That's at least another day. And then, of course, then you've got to wait to get the money in. Merchant fulfilled, you can potentially get a product in that morning and sell it straight away and get paid for it as soon as the money's available, as soon as you dispatch that item, you know, and then obviously you may have to wait for disbursement depending on your account type. So if you've got 24-hour disbursement like I have on my account, I could sell something. I could have a delivery at 9 in the morning, could list the product at 10, could sell it by 12, ship it that same day and get paid for it the same day, and then buy something else with the cash. So I don't need to take as much money out in loans, with interest rates going up as well. Don't need to potentially borrow from Amazon, because I can turn my cash over same day a lot quicker, and therefore make more money by turning over the same part of cash at least 3 times in the same space as you would sell that one item. So I think it's a really massively overlooked element of the merchant fulfilled, and a massive benefit that people just don't, I don't think they don't consider.
Yeah. And essentially as well, you're getting loaned. Okay, so like when you're buying merchant fulfilled, a label, with Amazon shipping, you don't have to pay till the month end. So it's like it could be up to 45 days until you actually pay that invoice. Then you pay with a credit card, which is another like 30 to 60 days, depending on the credit card. So you have basically 2 months of credit by the time you buy that label. So you're basically getting a free loan to buy that label. So you don't have to fork up the money for that label. With FBA, of course, it's the FBA
Take
label
it
is
straight off the balance.
straight off the balance. So your cash flow is insanely better if you just look at that angle and FBA fees. Imagine if you could pay your FBA fees in 2-3 months. So that's actually very I've never actually, yeah, cash flow is a huge thing where um, our cash flow is very very healthy. It's ever since using Amazon shipping for one, where we could pay with a credit card and pay a month end 45 days. The cash flow is incredible. It's just it's really really good. Um, so yeah, I think FBM is just it's fantastic. It's really yeah. I think
Yeah.
again that kind of leads into the other things where like obviously being able to do merchant listings, merchant fulfillment, um, as other channels as well. So as eBay,
Yeah,
listing through a
this
warehouse.
is the big one, isn't it? This is the real big one. This is the reason you get a warehouse. It's the opportunity. Like, if you're planning to run a strictly, I think we said this before, strictly FBA business, and you want as little involvement in as possible, little hassle as possible, then Prep Center FBA makes sense. If you really, you want a great business, you want to do other channels, then the warehouse.
Yeah,
Good thing then. The warehouse is the place to be because we have an entire element of our business which is we supply other businesses. We can take wholesale orders. We buy in extra product. We do what's called back to back deals. So we'll buy in something and then we'll stick £5 on and ship it back out again, or even on the same pallet, just take the labels off and relabel it. And that's an entirely different side of our business that
yeah.
could never happen through a prep center and FBA because everything would be labeled and prepped. It would just be completely impossible. We'd never be able to take advantage of business shipping discounts by moving lots of product in bulk.
Yeah, it's almost like a debate of like FBA versus FBM in a way. It's like obviously list fulfilled. There's so many advantages, cash flow. I think the other thing to mention as well is that one product. So this one pair of headphones can be listed on Shopify, eBay, Amazon, but on Amazon in 20 different listings. On eBay, 2-3 different listings. On Shopify, it can be sold as a case pack to wholesale to different businesses, and can be sold as a single to customers. So that one product can obviously be sold out to 20 different ones. And yeah, you're very right. With warehouse, it opens opportunities where you use that warehouse of distribution space where you're not limited by what your prep center can capabilities. Right. If you say maybe your prep center, you say like, oh look, I want to get into wholesale, they might not be able to have the capability for that because they might not have the space or they might not want to pivot into that. But say for having your own store and your own brand, and maybe they'll be able to do it. But we have our own custom tape for our Shopify brand and little things like that. And again, maybe a prep center can accommodate that, but it's gonna be that extra thing for them where you can't really. I wouldn't imagine them rely on that. Maybe they can do that. You can buy it in. There's lots of little things and a lot of different holes that you can explore. Different opportunities to go into with that warehouse that the warehouse brings you. Yeah. So a few
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Was any other thing you can really think of? I think for me it's just that multi-channel and you know merchant fulfillment for me is just like for us. We're hoping to have a seven-figure Shopify brand next year. Like with the way the numbers are looking, and Self Fulfilled Prime is probably 70% of our business now, where we used to be 100% FBA. Yeah, our margins have gone up dramatically because of Self Fulfilled Prime. So it's been completely worth it for us. And again, the other thing as well, I think there's an advantage is really just your personal development, your business development as well. I'd say is another thing to take into consideration is your business development, your learning management skills and learning how a prep center works and learning how a warehouse works and looking at the bills and all that sort of thing is another sort of good way of developing that you probably won't get if you have a virtual FBA business. So I guess that's the
yeah.
element. You
Completely
could
agree.
probably get those skills from elsewhere, but it's another thing that comes along with having your own warehouse. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Chris again said. Oh, so someone's put. I'm not sure who this is, but someone's had a question. Has anyone ever tried using two prices at once? Does it improve sales? I can imagine it would have the opposite effect because they'd probably be competing against each other all the time, wouldn't they? Would it even be
So
possible?
so what you want to do if you want to do that, then they have to be exactly the same rules. Otherwise, it's going to keep switching back and forth, and it makes no sense, right? Um, why would you want two rules for the same ASIN? That's the question. Like, why would you want two parallel rules for the same ASIN? It doesn't really make sense. Again, with repricer, all you got to look for is if you're looking for a repricer, does it use the simple queue service from the AWS service? That's what you want to ask. Like you're looking at a price center, say, is it real time repricing? Do they use the SQS service from the AWS? If they're not using that, you don't use that repricer. That's really anything that matters. Obviously, there's like
Yeah,
custom filters and stuff. But that the speed to repricing is the only thing that really matters, and that's why for beginners, it's always recommended to use Amazon's one because they are the fastest or as fast as you can be. But yeah, do not use two reprices. It's a waste of money. It doesn't make sense really. If you want to have more custom repricing rules, look at something like Channel Max. Channel Max is really good for customizations, and you can do custom SQL queries and stuff like that to completely customize it. So my recommendation would be to look at another repricer with more custom filters.
yeah,
Cool.
agreed.
Chris, yeah. I am FBA with a little FBM at the moment. I do also plan to utilize space for other income streams. Problem I have is space. I can knock 40% off some products if I buy the pallet.
Yeah,
I don't see it that often with the pallet. It's not usually that significant, 40-50%. Have you? I've never seen that. Yeah.
I don't know. It depends what you're sourcing. I'm going to say it depends. Yeah, it's a very hard question to answer straight off the bat without knowing someone's circumstances and what they sell. Because some people get bigger, much bigger discounts by taking all of a line. As well, sometimes it can come down to control. It's not just the discount you can get, but if you can control all the stock by being able to hold all the stock and buy all the stock, then you can dictate the market and control the price of the market. If you're the only person that has that particular product, if the wholesaler says I've got 1,000 pieces of a product, you gotta take the lot, and no one else has got it, and they're not going to restock it for a month or so. You've got the run of the market, and you've got potentially you can double, triple your margins because you can charge what you want for that product. Obviously, as long as it's within what a customer's going to pay, but you're not going to be competing against other sellers. So yeah, it's a lot of different swings and roundabouts, isn't there, that you need to explore?
Yeah. The other thing about that is if you're looking for pallet spaces, then well, okay, like you're making that saving, but now you have to invest in a forklift and you have to buy massive racking or
Yeah,
free tier racking so you
and
can
that's
actually fit enough
expensive. I can
pallets in.
assure you, that's
Yeah,
expensive. Unless
and
you get it
if you
second hand.
if you move into a 3,000, 2,500 square foot warehouse, if you want actual proper pallet racking, realistically, how many pallets can you actually fit in? Like, if you could say you're gonna have picking shelves and packing tables and all those sort of things, realistically, how many pallet spaces can a 3,000 square foot one have? Maybe depends how
We
you optimize it.
we can take 16 pallets
16 is
with
about what we have.
with our
16,
shelving.
so 16 to 20. So if you think about you're getting a warehouse, you're making a 40%, 50% saving on that one product. That's 1 out of 16 pallet spaces taken. So the way you got to think about it, like we have over 2,000 products in our warehouse, right? Like it's good to have the odd bulk products that you've made that 40-50% saving or 20% saving, but it's not actually worth it for how much you're saving just for the sake of having a warehouse. I would say it's a saving, but it's a very marginal thing that you should factor in my opinion.
Yeah,
Unless you, of
agreed.
course, move to a massive warehouse and you get pallet racking everywhere, and your whole focus is pallet racking, no picking shelves. But then you're like a different business, so I wouldn't factor that in. Another question: is there
Yeah,
any risk of prep senders and accounts getting linked? Yes, there definitely is, but we're not going to go into that too much. But there absolutely is a risk. Again, I think the advice is making sure that they're using secondary users for every account, something like that. But I'm not.
yeah. I've never used a prep center, so I wouldn't want to answer that question because I've no experience on it.
Yeah, it's a risk. It's definitely a risk. Any good recommendations for getting extra credit loans aside from Amazon loans? That's
Yeah,
a
if you
lot of
want to
different things.
message me, I've got a few referral links where you'll get a bit of extra, either discount or kickback or something. So yeah, just direct message me afterwards. I've got a few people that I can refer you to.
Yeah,
I can help you out with that.
yeah. So yeah, again, this is Capital and Tap Amex, and then yeah, Amazon loans applying for banks and stuff like that. We're thinking getting a warehouse during prep. Was thinking of doing MF. You have convinced me to take the plunge. Jeez, okay. Uh, I thought it was more on the FBA side.
More on the, yeah.
I thought it was on the FBA side, but no, you're right. There is definitely advantages to doing FBF, MF. One thing I would say is, how old are you? Because it says Facebook user, right? How old are you? Do you want to be situated in that spot where are you comfortable where you are right now? You know, are you planning to move in the next 3 4 years? Because I'd say if you're comfortable, like Natalie obviously has her family, and it's probably always going to be a southerner, and always stick to that area or close, I'd imagine. So for her, getting a warehouse is a different decision to myself, where I like traveling around. So
Yeah.
again, that's a
So
good.
for you as well, geographically is irrelevant, really, isn't it? A little bit. You know,
Right
it
now it
doesn't
is.
really
So
matter.
I've built up to that, and I have a pretty I
Mm.
have the revenue to
This is
accommodate
another
that.
thing. If the beauty, I know people talk about like financial freedom being FBA, but genuinely building a warehouse and a team can actually be way more freedom again because you don't have any involvement in that. The problem with the prep center and the the FBA is you're going to need some kind of management of that process. You're going to need some people to work for you. So it can be very hands off, and it will certainly allow you to travel. But if you have a warehouse, you can build a solid team that can run everything for you. But the caveat to that is you're going to take you a year minimum if you've experienced, probably 2 to 3 years of building that team and getting the right people before you can take that step out. I've been in the
Yeah,
game 10 years, and I'm only really stepping out of my business in this past year,
yeah.
um,
Well,
past
for
two
me, it's
years,
like
really.
I'm like the IT guy. I'm like the tech IT guy who, if there's a problem, or because I've custom built a lot of our software as well, I'm the person who's gonna like say how to do things, or if there's something I need to have a look at. So I'm always gonna be involved in the business as being like the IT guy, which I don't mind. I don't mind. Um, Apart from that, it's more just speaking to my accountant, my bookkeeper, and being like, "We all good?" How's it going? Um, yeah, cool. I've always preferred the control and advantage of merchant fulfilled. Yeah, I mean merchant fulfilled is great, especially starting out on eBay first in 2004. Wow, you beat me actually there. I think I started 2006. So that's yeah, old school on that.
Old school.
Uh, Old school. Costs, multi-channel and control is much better in my eyes. It's better. It's better. It's obviously it is better, but it's just more work, isn't it? Managing your own team and against that point. Yes, sorry, yes, that's it. I mean, clear the stock. Smaller scale, 5 6 pallets can be sold over multiple platforms. If that 5 6 pallets has only 6 different products, then it's doesn't give that many options. You can actually also rent spaces. Like there are ways that you can have connections with different warehousing where surprisingly their warehouse spaces will be surprisingly cheap. So you can actually rent out pallet spaces from warehouses that are close to you. So you could actually have a drip feed model, which is what I'd recommend if you're thinking about that. So I wouldn't actually store these bulk pallets at yours. I'd find a warehouse near you that's bigger, and then I'd drip feed
Yeah.
it and then pay the rental for that pallet space. And then rather than having pallet spaces for that, I would prioritize more picking shelves and more packing stations, because you want more picking shelves, so there's more products, and you want more packing stations so you can have more output out of your smaller space. So my recommendation for the model you would do is more of a drip feed model, and then prioritize picking shelves, because that's what's going to make you the money and be able to scale. So that's a little thing, a little tip for
Correct.
that. Um,
Yeah.
how much time does a prep center take with doing customer service emails problems? We don't run a prep center, so I'd imagine a lot. I imagine that's probably half the battle. I would say that's half of it is customer service. Yeah, would you say a prep center? Like, I know you haven't used one, but it's probably half the battle. It's half the service, half the battle is the marketing and the customer service and all that. It's something that I could look into doing, but it's not something I'd really want the aggro with. I've got too many businesses to be honest. Oh yeah, I do it from home too. Converted garage, brilliant. That's the best. Convert your garage, buy a bigger place, and say to the wife or husband, yeah, I want that bigger garage. Otherwise we're going to have to pay £1,000 for this warehouse, or we could buy this bigger house or rent this bigger house. So a nice little excuse to move up and to upgrade.
Yeah.
Oversized
Yeah.
and heavy items make making MF very attractive. Yeah, but oversized and
Yes.
heavy items, it's good. But again, you're taking up your own warehouse space, right? That's the other thing. Um, Also, a warehouse with retail spaces to gain trade accounts to expand is a big opportunity to me. Yeah, that's definitely not sure about the retail space. I know you used to have a trade front. That
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah, it
yeah,
can work really well. It depends what you want to do from it. That's another thing about if you've got physical premises, you can trade face to face. There's no reason why not. There's a lot of people run trade counters from their premises. We never had any success with it, but we never really invested in it. Um, you'll need to build up obviously customer base and the marketing. It'd be a lot more local marketing, but absolutely, yeah, definitely. I think it's certainly good for low value stuff as well because sort of food items, I think particularly because you're removing the delivery element, and the delivery element is probably one of the biggest costs in the product. Delivery probably could cost more than the product does. If you're selling something for £10 and the delivery is £2.30, and the item costs £2, delivery could cost more than the whole item does. So something really to consider there. Yeah, could work really well for you.
absolutely. Yeah. I think there's a final question. Not question. Just seems I'm happy. Spend my days doing prep and value time with the family more than chase the millions laptop lifestyle. I mean, to be honest, it's the same as me. I'm not chasing the millions. It's at the end of the day, it's fulfillment and doing what you enjoy. And if you like doing prep and it's something that passes the time and you enjoy it, then keep doing it. It's not about growing businesses. It's sometimes just about growing something that works for you, and yeah, that pays the bills. Really, at the day, I don't think. I think as soon as you start chasing like businesses that are going to make you thousands and millions, that could be where you're going wrong. Because as soon as you start chasing money, that's where like sometimes that's where issues usually happen. I find is people who chase money rather than
Yeah,
customer service and quality and all that sort of thing, staff happiness and all that sort of thing. Um,
yeah, definitely agree. Definitely agree. Easy life and contentment is better than millions of pounds in the bank. I would say, chasing the millions. Matt's just
exactly.
commented. He said, "I find a lot of wholesalers won't deliver to residential addresses these days." That might be again. It might be another thing to influence your decision as well. If your suppliers don't want to deal with it, then or won't deliver to your residential address, that could be a challenge for you. But again, they will usually see. The thing is, most suppliers will deliver to prep centers, but I think the problem with OAs, a lot of OAs won't deliver to prep centers because they flag the addresses as being resellers. So it's a swings and roundabouts actually, depending on what business you're in. The residential address can have big benefits for OA because he won't flag as being a reseller on a prep center, but the wholesalers might not want to deliver to you.
Yeah, exactly. Um, right, so I think it's quarter past what? Yeah, so we're 15 minutes over, Matt.
that's timely. That's timely. That's all good. That's all good.
It's
Yeah.
all
So
good.
I don't know. Should we summarize? If we have we actually answered the question? I think the answer is very much it depends. I think in
Yeah,
summary, I think we would suggest it depends what you want out of life. Depends where you want your business to go. If you're looking for an FBA only kind of life, then a prep center is probably the way to go. If you're looking to expand into new areas, new business opportunities, get into wholesale, build a bigger business and a more kind of real team, people, physical people in a warehouse rather than just virtual assistants, then obviously the warehouse is the way to go there, I would say.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, yeah, lots of benefits for it. A lot of learning opportunities. I think FBA is a lot easier life. Sticking to FBA, you don't have the headaches of customer service and dealing with customers because again, with FBA, exclusive FBA businesses, you don't have to deal with them because FBA will. Amazon will do it
Yeah.
themselves. So, uh, depends what direction you want to go into. Really depends. Really depends. So, in conclusion, it depends.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys. See you next
No, I
week.
hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, I hope we dropped a few. I hope we dropped a few helpful tips there. Again, if anybody's, particularly if you're in the Hive, guys, we'll be discussing this a lot more in depth in the Hive. About creating your own opportunities, a lot more of the wholesale stuff as well. So we'll be, and we have also be able to answer questions, I think, a bit more directly. If we can take a consideration of people's circumstances and see which things would be the best for them.
Yeah, and if you're not in the hive, then join up. It's like full of information. It's 3 of us all doing training, lots of content. It's one of the cheapest on the market. Monthly subscription. You don't have to tie up to any sort of yearly contracts or pay any big fees. It's only £99. Do sort of wholesale, unique bundles, all those sort of things over there, and weekly sourcing, weekly training, weekly content, onboarding, mentorship, and have a look. People seem like a lot of happy customers, but
yeah, definitely.
We don't have a link, do we?
Someone said, "Is that Freddie Mercury?"
That's the guy
on screen. Referring to you, I think.
yeah, probably. That was the intention of the look. I based my look off Freddie Mercury. Yeah. No, I'm just trying different looks. Don't know why. Maybe it's the South African air making me a little bit more adventurous. Maybe it's because I've been going and seeing some safaris and seeing some giraffes and stuff. So maybe I'm just a bit more like exploring that side of me.
The bearded side.
the safari person side. Yeah. Anyway. Cool. All right.
Cool. Right, I hope you all enjoyed it. We'll be back the same time next week. I think Natalie's back next week. She got a guest?
I think so.
I think she's got a guest. I think she's got a special guest. So always looking forward to Natalie's guests. But we're obviously around in the group. If you've got any questions or comments, please drop them in the group. Also drop us a like and a subscribe if you're on YouTube as well, because that helps the channel grow. Our typical YouTuber here, aren't I? Helps the channel grow, and obviously helps reach more people as well. So hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Cheers, everyone.